Hello, my name is John Didi, professor of political science at the community colleges of Baltimore County and local media analyst. Welcome to the Maryland State Politics and Government podcast on Substack. Today, I am speaking with Sharonda Dillard-Huffman, who is a candidate for the 8th District in Baltimore County. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
My first question today is, why are you running?
Well, let me tell you, I am in currently the 7th district. So the 7th district is represented by Councilman Crandall. I live in Essex, and we have not been represented in a long time. Councilman Crandall, I'm glad he's getting help with some of his issues, but there has been an opportunity because of the new map that there is, for the first time, an opening in this Essex area. Actually, I planned on just running for Central Committee. I have served on the Central Committee and I have a club. But when July 2024 came and they actually came in with a councilmanic map, a lot of people say, Sharonda, you need to run. I have been very very vocal that we need to have representation in this area. It has not been represented by a Democrat since 2014. It is not because no one can, come here. We still have a lot of Democrats. It's because no one has tried. And I think it's incumbent upon me to not only bring a woman to the table, but also bring a person of color. We have not had a woman of color on our council forever. And not only that, I'm a mother of a person who has disabilities. So I've worked in government entities, and I think we need to professionalize our council. And that is why I'm running.
What do you think is the number one issue facing Baltimore County, and the thing you're really going to talk a lot about in your campaign?
Well, there's a couple issues. So right now, it's affordability. I mean, people cannot afford to pay their bills. And that goes back to housing. I'm a housing expert. I have worked in the field as well as disabilities. And a lot of the things that are becoming unaffordable is because people don't have a place to live. It's because the taxes are going to be raised because there's it's supply and demand. So we need to really tackle our economic issues. We cannot keep spending what we can't afford. And I think those are the kind of issues that we have in Essex, especially, and also in the Middle River area.
You mentioned affordability, and the interesting thing is last week I talked to a couple elected Republican leaders. They both also use the A word. So it's really getting a lot of attention. And in one area, people are talking a lot about affordability, and one problem facing Baltimore County is the lack of available housing. Housing is a major problem, and if it is available, it costs a lot of money. What would be your thoughts and ideas towards creating more affordable housing and improving the housing situation in Baltimore County and in the new District 8?
Well, let me tell you that I have been working on that issue for many years. I actually work professionally in housing. So let me just go back for a second. I want to say that I am a Democrat, but a lot of Democrats and Republicans want the same thing. And honestly, in order to become a Democrat or Republican, you just check a box. And even Todd Crandall was a Democrat, but he thought it'd be more beneficial for him to be a Republican. That's how he won. So a lot of us have the same kind of ideas, but I'm probably the only one who has implemented those ideas. Just to give you some background, in 2023, I had actually 2022, I started on a campaign in Baltimore City, where we wanted inclusionary housing. And because of our advocacy, and I was part of the Inclusionary Housing Coalition, we were able to bring a bill that when the city government is going to be helping with some of these projects, they have to have affordable housing. What the real problem is our councilmanic courtesy. Because we do not have any housing experts, because it is kind of messy and it's very, it's a big idea. We have a lot of council people who only want to listen to what their constituents say, instead of educating them that sometimes things are going to have to change. We never want change. We also have a bias. We always think that if we bring more people in the neighborhood, it's going to make it worse. What's happening is we're falling behind. So what do I envision? I envision that each council district, they designate an area, say, hey, we're going to talk to our constituents, and this is the area for development. We have to work with our partners on the federal level and the state level to make this happen, and I've been doing that. I'm trying to get a bill passed on the federal level, the the infrastructure bank, the National Infrastructure Bank. We can't afford to pay for the kinds of supplements some of these developers need. And so we have to think about how we can have affordable housing. Unfortunately, affordable housing is costly housing because you have things that need to go along with it. A lot of people do not have experience that, when you have a development that's affordable, you also have to get, state backing. Now with the federal government and they're changing the way we can get loans is very difficult. For the long haul, I think we need to have it like we have in Howard County and Montgomery County, where we have a Housing Opportunities Commission, where we no longer will politicize housing. We also have a better education on how we have to have more housing. It's too often that people who graduate from college here or they grew up here, it's become unaffordable because there is no appetite for us to help people obtain housing that's attainable. My son is an adult with a disability. Our county doesn't even support some of the programs that on the federal level, like HUD 811. I actually am I'm the housing president for a local nonprofit organization. So I actually work with the state and Baltimore County every other month to try to work on some of these housing issues. Particularly just this month, we talked about the homeless situation. I think it's a big problem, but I think you need to have a lot of understanding of everyone's needs in order to come up with some solutions. And I'm going to be honest with you, we need to really get rid of this councilmanic courtesy because we work in silos and not together.
Things I'd like you to do because I understand it, but for a lot of the listeners, could you explain the problem and what councilmanic courtesy is?
I'm sorry, you're good point.
That's okay.
So if I want you to pass my bill, I'm not even going to understand your bill. And I'm going to say, go ahead and do it. So for example, this is why we have the pay to play in politics. So if I have a developer that comes to me and say, hey, I want to build some houses over here. Can we go ahead and do it? Well, okay, sure, no problem. And then you go to the meeting, you don't really say anything. You don't really have to explain it. And everybody says, okay. So when I worked in a city, so let me just give you some background. I worked in the vacancy value program. So I would have to work with the developer in the community. They would have to show me they have gotten some community support. Now I have to take everything with a grain of salt. I know some people just don't want anything in their neighborhood, right? But I would have to make a recommendation. So my recommendation would not just be based on how I feel. I'm gonna look at the totality of it. For instance, I would even do background checks on a developer. I don't know if we really do that here. Sometimes people will change their LLC and be under another name. I would use tools like Accurant to see, do you owe money? Do you owe money to the city? Do you owe money to the state? Are you going to be a good developer for the city? And then I have to give that report to another committee, and then I would prepare all the paperwork for it to go to the mayor and the city council. I think that we have to go back to the basics on making sure people understanding housing is a necessity. And just recently, the director, he had given the council a report. So I finally hear Republicans saying, hey guys, we're going to have to do something about housing. I've been screaming that from the top of my lungs for a long time. But oftentimes, I'm going to just tell you, honestly, I had reposted a story where some of my colleagues, I'm going to say my friends over in 7A and over in the David Marks area in Middle River, there was a woman, and they said, we don't want Section 8 housing. I don't even think people know what Section 8 housing really is. Working in housing, Section 8 could be a working class person that might get a supplement. It's the same way a farmer might get a supplement from the federal government. Not everybody that is on a Section 8, which is now really called a housing choice voucher, is a person that doesn't work. It's just an opportunity because it is so unaffordable. It's just like getting a discount on your taxes. It's just like when you go up to northern Baltimore County, how they get subsidy for not even doing anything to their land. So I think we need to look at it in a different scope and explain it in a way that we all are getting some kind of subsidy. If you get a tax break, that's a subsidy. And that's how housing is. But right now, we don't have anybody that says, okay, let's bring this to a committee. Let's go ahead and go through all those things that Sharonda talked about and make sure this is good for the whole county. We just allow one person to make the decision for the whole county on where we're going to have development and where we're not going to have development. And if I made you mad, you will never have development. So that's basically what councilman courtesy is.
Good explanation. I appreciate that. My next question deals with something that's a little bit long term. Baltimore County's population is declining. At the same time, that means that some businesses are declining also. What would you do as a council member if you are elected to kind of bring back some population in Baltimore County and also bring some businesses back to Baltimore County?
I'm glad you asked this question. You know, I'm not in power now, but I try to put myself in spaces that I can talk to people that maybe influence the people that are in power. So I joined a board of a chamber of commerce. And so, you know, as these things come along, I was like, do you think this is okay? Because talking about councilman courtesy, if a neighbor gets upset about something, you know, they was like, okay, I'm just going to change the zoning on that. That makes absolutely no sense. You know, we have to be a little bit more proactive to see the pitfalls of some of those development. So this is not a friendly place to have business. So what I would do is that I would try to implement some of the things that I have done in Baltimore City, is having those conversations with communities. I also would not only be a person that would be a leader, I also be the cheerleader. A cheerleader meaning that I'm going to go out and seek businesses. You know, you don't just need to have our economic development arm of the government to come out there. I mean, I think it's good to have relationships. I think we need to have the right type of businesses. Too often, you know, we're not trying to work with our local, like we have an Essex Community Development Corporation. One of the things I wanted to do on the Chamber of Commerce is work with the Essex Community Development Corporation and also recruit people to join the Chamber of Commerce. We have a lot of businesses that don't have any support. They don't even know about the Chamber of Commerce. Chamber of Commerce is like, hey, you know, I know you, hey, you want to join, but we're not looking at diversity. Are we looking at the Black businesses? I also was an MBE officer, Minority Business Enterprise. We need to also teach people how to get some of these government contracts. Also to tell them their eligibility for some of them, some of the contracts. So how would I do that? I think that we have to look at our conversations with businesses, you know, work with the Chamber of Commerce, have bi-monthly webinars. And also, not everybody is going to be able, with AI, everybody's going to learn new skills. So we have to work with our community colleges. If some businesses want to come here, we have Trade Point Atlantic right down the street. We have a lot of industrial areas that people can come to, but they also want to make sure people have housing. So because when we put that housing piece together, and we also work with our community college to make sure they get the skills that they need, and even work with our high schools. Like for instance, my son and my daughter, they went to one goes to Solace Point, one graduated from Solace Point, where they're learning cybersecurity. And so we can bring some of those type of jobs to this area. That's going to build business. It's going to allow us to have more homes, and people want to live where they work. And when I first came to Baltimore County, it's because I had so much equity in my home. My husband was a teacher. They had a teacher next door program. It was a HUD program where they would find blighted homes and give it to teachers for 50% off through HUD. Maybe we should do some of those programs. You know, we have to give people an incentive to live here. And also, you know, we have to look at other things like in Montgomery County, they have you can't have your rent but go so high. What's happening is some people will make their rent a little bit higher than what the area median income is, so they're not eligible for the housing choice voucher. So it's a holistic approach, and I'm ready to dig deep. I don't know all the answers, but I'm ready to ask all the questions so we can make this make an area that we can have people stay here as well as come here. Like me, I'm from Delaware. And I came here when I was 17 to Morgan State University, and I haven't left. And that's how we're going to, you know, have people come back. We also have to embrace our immigrant community. They don't have as many resources as they need. I don't think there's anything wrong for just codifying, having, I do like the bill where you're making sure we're codifying that we have a minority department to make sure that when we have immigrants, they have everything they need to be successful.
One of the issues you touched on before was community colleges, and I teach at CCBC. We have a lot of training programs. We also have a lot of people who have to take English 101, et cetera. What would be your commitment towards CCBC and community colleges in Baltimore County if you are elected?
I don't understand why. Let me tell you the truth. My son goes to Morgan, right? But he had, he was a COVID kid. It's hard, and in high school for him. And I was like, it's nothing wrong with community college. In fact, let me tell you what I've done. When I used to work for Humana, and I was the first person that built a collaboration between our high school students that had a IEP or a 504. And they would take like do an internship at the Howard General Hospital, which is right next to Howard Community College. So I was like, well, why don't we just go to Howard Community College? We can have some of our students get their work experience right on the community college. And then guess what they did? They enrolled. And these were students who had special education needs. So I think this is a viable option. Like I had Deli Okafor, she's actually sits on the Alumni Association. I just had an education town hall, and a lot of immigrants are looking at going. She told her path was and her family were like, okay, the 4-year college thing is kind of expensive unless you got a scholarship. So we need to encourage to get those classes. And not everybody needs a 4-year degree. Some people just need to get certifications. In fact, my daughter, she wants to go to CCBC. I mean, literally, she's like, okay, why can't I take some extra classes? It's in walking distance of Sawyer's Point. I think that we need to start having that collaboration. I mean, high school and CCBC should go together. We need to, hey, come on, take some classes. And we always talk about, our juvenile crime. Why don't we start, emphasizing, let's put them in some classes at school. Like, you can start having some of your college prep classes when you're in high school. And we need to invest in making sure everything's not free. We have to invest in having some of our students take those classes. So I am fully in support of it. I also, I know people who have served on the CCBC board. And I think we need to, that is our real, our college over here. I mean, the district that I'm in is in the middle of the CCBC Essex and also in Dundalk. So that is a great opportunity to encourage our high school students to go to either school.
One of the things I want to touch on next, which you slightly touched on before, what should be the role of ICE in the relationship in Baltimore County?
I don't know what happened to ICE. It is, I mean, I'm scared to look at the TV. I know there was just another incident where someone was killed. The relationship has to be different than it is now. This ICE right now is, I don't have the words for it, but I'm in support of making sure that we're complying with the law, but we're not giving our constituents over to ICE for no reason. So I have talked extensively about this bill. So let's say, for instance, someone is in police custody. I mean, or actually in our detention center. Detention centers are you're serving a small time there, or you've been picked up. And I said, when we do this, right, aren't you running a criminal background check? If they're wanted for questioning or something like that, because they might be a suspect in a murder, that should be in the database. Does that mean that every time someone's picked up, that we should just send them over to ICE? And I say no. I don't believe we should have 457G agreements. I am a Black woman who doesn't even know where my ancestors came from. All I know is I'm from Delaware. And I am scared. I actually went and got a passport card, because, and I'm talking to people, and I have people that work with my child who has a disability, and, they're from other countries, they have accents. So our relationship should be in compliance with the law, but we also haven't given our Baltimore County workers enough instructions on what they should do in the event there is an incident with ICE. I am scared to death the ICE will try to do the same things they've done here. So in order for us to protect our constituents, We have to be on alert. And if that means that we're going to be complying with the law, but also not allow them to give them all the information. I'm going to be honest with you. Having an adult son with autism, if a police comes to my home, I'm not necessarily scared, but you can't come in my home unless I need you. So you need to have a warrant because I never know how that interaction is going to be different for someone with autism that doesn't understand. So I'm just very fearful that when of course, you have to take everything with a grain of salt. That ICE is coming to people's homes, knocking on doors, and just coming in like it's okay. That is against the law, and we have constitutional rights. So, which should our relationship be with ICE? Until it gets itself together, it should be very minimal.
The race is going on in Baltimore County. Race for county executive, race for state's attorney. Do you have any preferences as far as in those races?
Well, let me say, I'm not like everybody else, okay? I'm Sharonda. So for years, everybody asked me my questions. And to prepare for this position, I have watched every single council meeting for last probably year and a half. Because I have a Democratic club, I've been supportive of all the candidates, right? But the difference for me is I'm looking for more substance and specific things like housing, like where do you stand on things? I'm also concerned, I don't have to put anybody down or put somebody up, but I've watched a lot of these things that we have blunders on. It's because our council is not very professional. Okay. When I say professional, why every other day, oh, oops, we did something, is because you don't read. We probably need to have, maybe some kind of staff that gives them more support. But regardless, right now, after looking at everybody, Nick Stewart came to me early on and said, hey, Sharonda, I hear you're doing a lot of things on East Baltimore County, and I would like your support. And I straight up told him, I said, well, right now, until Charles Sidner tells me he's not running, I'm going to support Charles Sidner. But, and so I have actually talked to him. He's actually invited me to things I didn't even know were here. So I am supporting Nick Stewart. And that's because he has an actual vision. He also is, I've worked with him on I'm a chair of a housing committee. I've asked him to support me there. And we align on many different things. Because I'm a woman and I've seen these things happen where we're not really like when there's crimes against women, I don't feel like our current state's attorney is giving us, like, with the rape kits and things like that. I don't feel protected if something like that happened to me. So and I very much support Sarah Davis. Sarah David and I actually took Emerge class. Emerge is a program for Democratic women to run for office. So those are two people I support because honestly, it doesn't matter if I get on the council if I don't have people around me who are aligned with what needs to make Baltimore County better. And unlike other candidates, I'm going to speak forward and say, look, if you only are one of 9, you really can't do anything. You really have to have people around you that have the same kind of mission, and we can't do business as usual.
Final question I'll ask is this. It's gotten a lot of publicity the last couple of days regarding the situation with county council with the increase in pensions and increase in salaries. How do you feel about that situation? What do you think should be done regarding it? Should they decrease their pensions? Should they decrease their salaries? What should happen? What would you do?
I think it's very interesting, right? That they knew about this all along. So maybe you didn't know the consequences. So why couldn't the council be more aligned with what Baltimore City does, right? So if the unions get a cost of living increase, things like that, they would also too. And I guess they were trying to supplement the fact that they didn't get pay raises. So they came up with a bill. After that, the add 9 more people and the commission or whatever, the study group, whatever they wanted to call it, determined it should be 9 people. So let me just be honest with you. I'm a professional woman and I'm not rich, okay? I didn't come from money. I'm not retired. I'm 50 years old. So one of the things they did to make it full time is I'm in the sandwich generation. My mother's in the hospital right now. I take care of my mother. I am the legal guardian of my adult son. So can you afford to do public service if you're not retired, if you're still raising a family? They looked at how many hours someone, works to do this job, and they said, okay, this is a full-time job. And then they did a study. They did a study and saw, okay, how many other jurisdictions are full-time? And they were in Montgomery County and Prince George's County. And of course, Montgomery County, Prince George's County have higher incomes. So they determined based upon what the rate is now, and even some of them even said before they raised the rate, they came up with $140,000. Okay, so some people are like, oh, $140,000 is a lot of money. How dare they? You get what you pay for, right? So instead of saying, okay, maybe we didn't realize the rate was going to be that high, so we need to lower the rate of income versus get rid of Bill 40-24, which will make their pensions like 100% more than what they have. That makes no sense to me. They knew when all these things happened, they just thought nobody was going to say anything. So do I agree with it? You do what you have to do, to make sure that you have money in your pocket. And you just reduce the salaries for other people. So what happens with that? It can be fixed later on, but I think it's very interesting that men who have other jobs, who have pensions, right, make the determination that's too much money. It's comparable to what I already make. So for me, I don't want to work 50 jobs. That's why it's hard for me to even understand. They think that you're not worthy of getting that sort of money because you should work another job. That's because of your privilege. So do I agree with some of the people said? What I heard them say was that we should get some more feedback, right? But they got feedback. And then when they got when they got caught getting cookies out the cookie jar, they want to fix it, but they want to make sure they also get their pensions. So my answer to you is I think they just need to get rid of 40-24. And I think they need to stop acting like they are subject matter experts on pay, on housing, and things like that. And sometimes they need to just get help. Because if we talk about one of the reasons why women don't run for office is because of the pay gap. Okay. And so therefore, if you want quality women like myself, and I'm going to talk about all the emerged women, I'm at least speak on them. They are like executives. They have higher education degrees. They have worked in Capitol Hill. They've worked in different government entities, and they will do more than be a politician. They will be legislators, people that know how to create bills, things that are not really happening. What they do is do sloppy bills that they always have to fix. So you get what you pay for. So right now you have a lot of quality people. Will we all make the finish line, or will any of us make the finish line? Probably not. So when you have less, then you will get less. And that's how I sum it up.
Okay, thank you again for your time and good luck on the campaign trail.
Thank you so much.